Welcome to Dear Alice, a lifestyle approach to interior design.
Hello everyone, welcome to Dear Alice. Today we have got a really fun one for you.
I'm so excited.
I am too. But
I say
first,
that every time, so it feels like a run-on sentence, but I really am.
I am too. I'm not going to spill the beans yet. I want to know first, what is something that used to intimidate you?
Ooh.
You guys want to know the truth?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this.
Yeah.
I'll tell a little story about it too, but recording this podcast.
Intimidates you?
It used to.
Oh, but
Yeah,
it doesn't
what used
anymore.
to-
Doesn't anymore. Yeah, I'm cool with it now. But
Oh.
one of our very first episodes, people can go back and listen to it too. We were talking about, I think it was paint.
Yeah.
And you like passed it off to me, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I fumbled I fumbled hardcore.
Oh.
And I like stressed about it for like 3 days over the weekend. And I like emailed our guy who's like editing it at the time. I'm like, you have to make me sound halfway normal in that when you're editing. So
Oh.
yeah, I still sounded dumb, but I was like, well, that's when I just need to chill out,
Yeah.
relax. So
But you kind of have to start something in order to get over the intimidation fear factor, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So,
When I think back on Alice Lane over the years, we have a saying, those of us that have been here for a while, we say we were cowboys then.
yeah.
You know, when we did something in a clumsy way and we didn't realize that we were clumsy about it, but then we came up with processes and procedures to make things more smooth, and everybody was part of it, and it was a beautifully well orchestrated machine. And we look back and we're like, oh my gosh, do you remember when we used to do something like that? And we'd be like, we were cowboys
What was
then.
the other day? I
Yeah.
like even sent you something. I'm like, we at one point were like, you know what would be really great in the store? Books.
Yeah.
We use them in decorating. We should bring our own books here and decorate with them. So we
Yeah.
did that for a second before we offered like just
They weren't for
cowboys.
sale.
We're the wild
Yeah.
west, putting flags in the ground.
That
Just
is
being like,
amazing.
what a good idea.
Yeah.
Books.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to start somewhere though,
It's
you know?
so
Yeah.
true.
Exactly.
It's so true. Well, on today's
Aw.
episode, we're going to take the intimidation out of a fun spring task and help you create front porch planters that wow. I'm so excited. We have a guest on today. Sue, do you want to tell them about our guest?
I would be honored to. Okay, this is my friend Becky Nyman. She is my go-to person whenever I have any, because it's intimidating. Speaking of intimidation, it's intimidating to do something that's out of your realm that can either prove that something will live or die. So Becky's my go-to. We have a beautiful like little write-up too because she deserves it. She's a master gardener. She's been doing this for 30 years. She's owned her own businesses. She has 4 sons.
Yes.
4 sons, grown sons now, but now she has 7 granddaughters. So she finally gets to do all the girly things that you always wanted to do. All the things. You owned like a ski business, like
Yes.
several ski businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Your son is like an Olympic skier.
Yes. Finally
So-
retired, so that's nice.
Gosh.
Crazy.
Anyway, so I feel like everything that Becky touches or is associated with, it's like takes it to like its perfect.
It's greatness.
It's greatness. You just pursue greatness, including gardening and everything to do with the earth. And so she works at Sun River now. But I think I first met you when you were at Williams-Sonoma,
Yes, you
and
did.
through your daughter-in-law,
Yeah.
who I'm good friends with. So anyway, so anytime I ever had any questions on cooking, I go to her. Anytime I have questions on gardening, I go to her. She's like my true North Star Martha Stewart.
Oh.
When it comes to
You're
things
too
like this, and if I go to the nursery and she's not there, I turn around and go back in my car until Becky can be there because she knows all. So,
Tell them when you work. No,
I
I'm just
know.
kidding.
I know.
Yeah.
So if you want to stalk her, Sun River's where she works. But
Sun River
Yeah.
Garden is the most beautiful nursery in all of Utah, I want to say.
It really is.
Yeah, and when you walk in, you're just like, it has stuff for home. And then it's got this beautiful big store for home. How big is the front portion that's the store? Like 8,000, 10,000 feet?
Yeah, I
It's
don't know, but it's
huge.
huge.
Yeah.
Yes. Just full of decor and
It's
just
so good.
lovely
And there's like
things for your
cool
home.
stories that are told as you weave and wander through. And then you get out to all these open areas and it's outside and the most interesting pots, the most interesting plants. And this is where Becky works. And Sue says she can't go into Sun River without wandering around to find Becky to figure out what she's going to do. So she can't shop without her.
I'm like, why is this dying? Tell me why it's dying. What do I put next to it?
Totally. A fun fact about Becky, too. She and her husband, Scott, have been married 45 years. Yeah. She loves a good book, a good walk, and a Dr. Pepper with a little bit of lemon and a little bit of lime.
Yes.
I love that little recipe.
I know.
Yeah.
They're so fun.
A little bit about Becky. Well, this time of year, you see a lot of women dragging their pots into the nursery or garden shop to help them get their porch planters potted. And I've been guilty of this where I feel like I've got a black thumb and that I need a professional to touch it in order for it to be worthy, porch worthy, if you will. And so Becky is going to teach us how we can do that for ourselves. And you say it's even therapeutic. So I can't wait to learn.
Creative.
Yes.
You're being creative, which is, you guys have that gift in and of itself.
Oh.
But ready to go?
We are.
let's
Welcome.
do this. Okay.
Welcome.
Well, picking your pot is probably the most important thing that you want to do. You want to pick a pot that has drainage in it. A lot of people because water can kill your plants faster than anything. And a lot of people don't realize that.
I've never heard that.
Overwatering kills plants faster than letting them dry out.
Wow.
So if you don't have a pot that has drainage, you're not going to have success in that.
Can you drill most pots?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Most big pots come with a drainage hole. Some do not, and easily they drain quite a few pots.
Mm-hmm. When you water, do you water by hand? You're like, that's the purest way to do it, or like, are you down with the drip system?
Well, drip system's awesome if you have that, and that's why. And we'll get into this later. That I like a fertilizer that is slow release, because then you don't have to you're not fertilizing. You can't fertilize because the water is just water. So we'll get into that.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
So the pot's the most important. So we're going to go into if we don't already have pots, we're going to go into a great nursery that we want to make sure and buy something with drainage. And do we also want to get the dish underneath so that it can, it doesn't stain our concrete, right?
That really helps.
Okay.
So getting the right size of dish that will
and sometimes they coordinate, like they'll sell a coordinating dish.
Yes, some of them do come. And then also we have just they're nice plastic bottoms, and some have little feet on them so they even raise, and some will lay straight down onto the cement. Okay. So you can get something and they're clear. You can get something like that pretty much nestles right around the base of the pot.
That's
and
great.
That won't be seen, but it also will catch the water and it won't stain your concrete.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Great
Do you
question.
have a certain I think most people buy more than one pot. Do you have a certain trick that you do, like coordinating the look of a couple pots together, big, medium, small, too big, stay with all the same color because your plants are going to be the color? What's your feeling on that?
I think a lot of people like to be symmetrical. I'm less symmetrical.
I am too. Yeah.
So I think it's what is going to be pleasing to your eye, because you're going to be the one that sees it a lot. I do like if you're going to have several pots and they're going to be stacked together, I like the variation because that just gives it more of a wowsy look to it. But a lot of people like the two standard pots on both sides of the porch as you walk up.
More formal, more traditional.
But within that, you can be very, I like to say, controlled chaos and make it look not so matchy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like it just happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nature
Mhm.
took over, and you might have maybe the same flowers, but you might even have them in different positions too, or you might throw something different within each pot that gives it, but you do have it all coordinates together.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's talk about filling the pot, just so I can make sure that what I'm getting for inside these pots isn't gonna die. What do I put in my pot?
Okay.
Help me.
I highly recommend an organic material, an organic soil.
Okay.
I know there are other ones out there, but that, if you get an organic soil, it has microbiomes in it. It has food within the soil.
Okay.
Where I don't want to necessarily bash on like Miracle-Gro soil, but it's pretty much sterile. And it just, it's a soil, but it doesn't have a long-lasting effect.
Like the SpaghettiOs.
Do you have a same brand name?
Um,
Or a favorite brand name for an organic
yes,
soil?
I do. Gosh, why it was the soil, and the soil that we had that I like that's in there, it's just called Master's Pride. And within the nursery, we have like a 8 cubic it's 8 quarts. You can buy a smaller one if you want within the nursery. But then we also have big, I think they're like 50-pound one or 25 pounds or 30 pounds, something like that. A big one for a big pot if you want. And it's a Master's Pride also.
Okay.
So,
Master's
and it's
Pride.
an indoor, outdoor. It's for pots.
Oh, good to know.
Good.
Yeah.
So besides the soil, do you first, so you have the hole drained. Are we first putting rocks in?
Okay.
Or
so
what do we, how do we layer this?
Depending on if you're ever going to move. So if you have like a lighter,
Like styrofoam?
No, well, if you have a lighter, most people are going to have a concrete pot. So if you had a lighter weight pot, maybe you might want to put a few rocks in the bottom. But what I would do, anything like above 14 inches, is you go and get just those little black pots that you buy, that the plants come in, and you can turn one upside down to help elevate that.
Yeah.
And then you can either plant within one of those black pots and just drop it in if you like, or you can kind of fill it around with some soil, and it just won't take up so much soil because it's going to be a waste.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
So you're just elevating. Now the taller, deeper pots, I would say for sure, do a drop pot within there.
Okay.
Get a black pot, and then that's where your home base is going to be, and then you're just going to drop it within the big pot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so you're going to put rocks underneath it to raise it up?
You don't even really need to have rocks. You can just buy another black pot that is just
like the size
empty.
of the pot that
and drop it in the bottom.
Oh, and use it upside down?
Put it upside down, and then just set your other pot right on top, your drop-in pot right on top. So that's elevated, and it's taken up all that space. You don't have to use soil. One time somebody told me, oh, put bark in there. It's really great. No, don't.
Okay, good. Tell us what not to do.
It stained my concrete because it leaches. When you watered it, it would just leach because it would go through the soil, and then it would go down into the bark, and then it stained my porch. So I would say you don't need to even do that. If you wanted to, you could put peanuts around in there if you wanted to build it up or something.
How deep do you need your soil when you're planting stuff in? So like people don't get too big of a bucket and go too tall.
Okay, great question. So first of all, let's do this. So you're going to put your soil in, and then I like the Osmocote, which is just a slow release fertilizer, and I mix that in the soil, and that's what they do at the nursery. Also,
all of the soil, not just on top.
Pretty much more of the top. I'd say probably about
8 inches deep.
8 inches deep, just so that, or maybe even it depends on how big your like if you're doing a gallon size plant, then you'd want to have it a little bit lower. So where that the roots are going to go.
Okay. So probably the depth of the pot that you're taking the plant out of.
Maybe with a little cushion.
Like
at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then you're going to put soil in your container, but you're only going to fill it, you're going to fill it less than what your largest plant is in. Does that make sense? The pot, whatever pot that is.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you're going to just take your plants out of the pot and you're going to set it right on top of the soil.
Okay.
You're not going to be digging in there necessarily.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
So you've prepared your soil now. So now you're going to take
just half a bucket worth of soil. You still have all that space, so you can just place your plants. You're not digging out dirt, reversing dirt out to put the plant in.
correct, and you're not
so much smarter.
And you're not messing with the roots.
Man, I would have got that wrong.
Yeah.
So you used to
plants
think, you have to dig a hole and then set it inside.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're going to have your pot, and so probably like a couple of inches from the top is where you want your. So this is the edge of my, the top of my pot, and then I want my plant to be about this much below.
Okay.
Okay, and then now it's sitting on soil. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So
you want your plants, those of you that aren't watching, you want your plants to be about 1.5 inches below the rim, the top of the plant, like the top of the flower.
yeah, about 1.5 inches.
Not just the top of the soil block.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
So way down low.
No, just from the top of the.
Yeah.
From the top of the.
I would have
canteen.
thought that we wanted them proud of the rim, the flowers.
Well, I mean, just because you're going to fill that up with soil.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're just going to do a little cover at the top.
So you're laying this down and then coming back and filling in the
Yes.
soil after.
Yes.
Okay. So kind of just getting the arrangement done before you're like putting things in quote
Correct.
unquote stone.
Correct.
Yeah.
So then you're going to have all your plants, and then you want to arrange them how you want on top of that soil that you've put on your pot.
Yeah.
And generally, I would say you want your taller plants to be kind of in the back,
Okay.
and then you just cascade down
Okay.
from there.
Yeah.
And then,
So graduating in height.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then anything that you have that is going to spill over the edges,
Yeah.
if you just have one, I tend to like to put it kind of offside, not like right on the side and not right in the front, but just kind of offside. If you have a couple, just place them where you want to put them
Love.
and make sure that that's probably the front of the pot
Yeah.
because that is going
That's when
to.
you get credit.
Yes.
Yeah. You get the
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
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 Love
Cute.
that.
So when I'm setting all my plants on top of my soil, I'm going to just nestle them next to each other. So this gives you room for them to grow, but it also makes it look like, oh, they've been living in here for a little while and they're
Not too
happy.
spaced
Yeah.
out.
But then as it grows, it will be able to just kind of meld into each other and really give you an eye stopper type of.
Nice. That's great.
I love that.
So then you're going to put them all in, and then you're going to have these little holes that you'll see, and you're just going to take maybe your spade, or sometimes I just take one of the pots that the plant came in and fill it full of soil, and then I just start sprinkling it all around
Filling
and
it up.
filling that in.
Great.
And then once that's done, I kind of tap it down. And by that time, your soil should be pretty much right at the top
The rim.
of the rim.
Okay.
But the reason you don't want it over the rim is because when it's waters, it wants a little bit of place to
Settle. Or
settle
something.
in. The water
Yeah.
needs to settle instead of always spilling out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But also don't compact it super tight, but
Okay.
just like tap it.
Okay.
Is that like you want the roots of whatever you're planting to be able to like move through the dirt easily? Okay. I think I planted a tree one time, compacted a little too much. It died, I think, the next year because of that reason. So
Yeah.
you'd like to keep your
Tuck
stuff
those
alive.
kids in bed real tight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, man, this guy's going nowhere. And sure enough, he did.
Because a lot of times you're inhibiting the water from being able to get down into the soil.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I have a
what I
question
did.
for you. When you are placing like these like actual plants on top of the soil, I've always heard like, do you kind of like break up the root ball a little bit just to loosen it up, but like don't destroy it? Just tell me about.
I was just
Dr.
going to
Fiction.
say that, yes. So you want, it depends on if the roots are, if you see them, they're kind of, it's called a root bound,
Yeah.
that they're kind of growing. Yeah, just tousle them a little bit and move them.
Okay.
Otherwise, you don't have to move them out from the other,
Okay.
from the soil.
Yeah.
Okay.
So question.
Yes.
The plants always come with those little stand-up tags.
Yes.
Do those matter? Like, do we pay attention to those when we're trying to get the look of what we want?
Yes.
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 Okay.
So it's very important if you have a porch that gets full sun, you want full sun plants.
Okay.
If you have,
You can't fake it with like partial sun. I'm sure at some
It's a
point.
suggestion.
Someone's gonna touch it.
At
Yeah.
night the sun isn't out, so that's partial sun, right?
yes, right. I mean, a shade plant will not do well. It will die very quickly in the full sun.
Yeah.
And a full sun will just not produce the blooms for
Yeah.
you. So you do want to
You
want
want
to
to be
look
pretty
at that.
aware of where these pots are going and buy the right plants
Yes,
for how much sun it's going to get.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So would
Great.
partial sun be like in the morning only?
Yes, or
Okay.
or maybe evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Depending on
But
the
not-
direction your porch faces.
sun, I mean, yes, it depends on if you had that west sun, the hot west sun. You would want to do a full sun because that is really in the summertime. That's a really harsh sun,
Yeah.
and it can fry plants
Yeah.
quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
So more success if you plant them where you
Yeah.
with it.
Follow the instructions.
Yeah.
I had a question about watering. Going
Yes.
back to that, you're like more plants die of overwatering than under.
Correct.
What are signs of like I'm overwatering this bad boy?
Okay, so before you water, stick your finger in the soil and stick it down probably to the
You're
end
not
of your
over-
finger. And if it's wet, don't water it. But if it feels dry, then go ahead and water it. If
Okay.
it feels damp, I should say,
Okay.
because that means even the further you go down, the wetter it is, and the roots are
sitting in
sitting
water.
in
currently.
water.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
Good to know.
But it's hard if you have it on a drip system. So if you can control your drip system and maybe do it less often than maybe some of the other things that are on the drip, then that really helps. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? If you have partial sun, which
Mhm.
I think I have a covered porch, I'm guessing I'm partial sun.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you're watering these every other day, twice a week, once a week?
Partial sun might. What's your morning sun?
I'm facing
what's
east.
your sun? You're
My
facing
porch
east,
is facing east.
and it would just be the morning sun.
I think so.
It might even be every few days.
Yeah. So maybe like twice a week, maybe three times a
Maybe.
week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know why I was like, I feel like I got to go water these every day. So I think I've been over watering.
Mm-hmm.
I got to put my entire finger down, clear down to where it touches my hand, make sure I'm right? Like get
Or
my
just-
whole finger in the soil.
Just your whole finger in the soil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
You love
But-
too much.
Yeah.
I do too.
I'm just so
Love
excited.
too much.
Yeah. I
Yes,
just had
and
the
that- and they
nursery
do,
lady
like,
plant my
even with house plants and everything, most people overwater, and that's what
Okay.
kills the roots.
Okay.
They'll bring it in. Oh, my plant died. And it's like, we loved it too much.
Yeah.
You know,
Love it
too
too
hard.
much.
Worked too hard for that.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes. So that's so if you are going to hand water, then I like we have a fertilizer. It's just it's called Jack's, and it's you don't need a whole lot of it, and it's a water soluble, really good fertilizer, and I put that in my water. But be careful, you don't want to over fertilize either. Too.
How much water and how much fertilizer?
Oh, it's maybe like even a quarter of a teaspoon for
Like
a
Wow.
gallon.
in like a full
Right.
watering can?
For a full watering for a gallon.
Okay.
So
Okay.
depending on how big your
Yeah.
watering can is,
You do that every time?
I would probably do that at least once a week.
And you still have the Osmocote in the soil.
Yes,
So
and
that's doing its slow release thing, and then Jax is going to really do its thing.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I've
Okay.
never fertilized, so this
Okay.
is
Nor have I, because I'm
Think
like,
of your plants like your
Fascinating.
babies.
yes.
They need a nice little home to
Yeah.
be in, so they need to be in the sun or shade in the right environment or in the good soil.
Yeah.
And they need to be fed. And most people don't feed. And that's why they don't get success with their blooms.
I don't even know what success looks like at my house.
know.
Now that I
No.
think
Jess,
about
I'm so
it,
excited.
Man.
You're going to
I-
see it.
we have flowers on steroids. I can't wait.
We were worse at this than we thought,
I
actually.
know, this is really telling.
So,
Totally.
I mean, because I think most people think, oh, it's soil, it's dirt, it'll grow.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
if it doesn't have food, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just going to kind of
Fair.
hang there. So you don't want to over fertilize. So on the Osmocote, make sure and look at the instructions for like how much soil that you're you don't want to dump half the thing. You can go, oh, it's slow release. Well, it's going to give you a powerful
Like
shot
steroids.
every so often.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I like the jacks. It's more mild and easy, and that's what I use.
That's great. Is it JAX or JACKS?
S.
Okay.
Okay. And the
Perfect.
Osmo, how do you spell that?
Osmocote.
Osmocote. sorry.
OSMOCOTE.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Osmocote.
Osmocote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they you can get small and you can get big.
I'll come see you at Sun
Charge
River.
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're planting flowers, does the angle matter?
Sometimes it does. Like last fall, I did a big pot full of the cabbage.
Oh,
I
The
love the cabbage.
what is it called? The ornamental cabbage.
Yes.
Yes, right here. And I angled that so that
So
they could
pretty.
see the faces, and it really made a difference. So, it depends
that more like
on
what's
which
happening over
one you want, what you want to show.
It probably helps like in layering, so everything's not just like facing up. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love a cabbage.
Me
Yeah.
do too.
Is there
The ruffles.
Is there any like when you're planting something at an angle, you got to be careful of this, make sure to get, I don't know.
Well, you want to make sure that the roots are covered. So you might have to dig a little deep, and you might have to move the soil a little bit, but you want to make sure that those roots get covered
Cool.
and they're not hanging out
Okay.
there.
Okay. What other rules do you have? Like as far as like we've covered the basics, like on full composition of a pot and a planter. Like you talked about height in the back, and then you're talking about spilling forward. What's in the like? What is like our universal rules?
Is
that we
the
can-
filler,
a novice
thriller,
can-
spiller thing a thing? Is that still a thing?
For me, I love to just do what is pleasing to my eye.
Yeah.
But you do want something that is going to give you take up some of the space, because I think if you have lots of teeny little flowers in there,
Yeah.
then they don't get to show off.
Yeah.
So if you have something that is more substantial, like I love the angel.
Yes.
The angel wings are so beautiful, and
Is that
they
different than a lamb's ear? Like they're
yes
similar. Okay.
There's
Similar in
but
color.
yes, similar in
Okay.
color, but they just are. I love the texture to them. They're just they take up some space,
Yeah.
but they also show off color with for other plants too.
So
Pretty.
that's your filler.
That's one that I really
Okay.
like.
Okay.
Yes. Sometimes though, I also like I like to put an herb in there. I like.
Okay.
I have to ask you about herbs.
Mhm.
Okay.
I like to put an herb, or I might even put like a perennial in there sometimes, and then
Pretty.
that perennial might not give you a bloom the whole time because they only bloom certain times, like an annual that blooms all the time in the the summertime. But I like if it has a neat the flower. The leaf is something cool that I want to show off.
Yeah. What's an example of one of those? Can you say a few that you like?
You like to incorporate with other stuff that play well.
A perennial.
A
or
perennial. Put in, okay, well, yes, you would. Like even a lavender, because lavender is a perennial.
Yeah.
So stick a lavender in there.
Okay.
And then the thing is if you have that and maybe you don't want it in your pot, then stick it in your
Bed.
somewhere, and then it continues to grow.
Smell is so good with like any herbs or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Oh,
that
because
experience.
you can just touch it, and the whiff of like like if you wanted something draping, you can do thyme is really beautiful
pretty.
and fun to have in there. A rosemary. Sometimes, like some people like to put a echinacea in there because it just has a really big happy face and color, and then it doesn't show off as much, and so then you just cut it down. Deadheading is important
Okay,
too.
let's talk.
Maybe give us the definition.
Okay,
of that.
deadheading.
I think I need that.
Okay, so what you want to do with your flowers, so sometimes when they start looking spent and they kind of like not looking so happy, you just pluck them off. Because when you pluck them off, then a new one's going to grow, especially with an annual. So like your petunias,
Yeah.
too, how you see them, they kind of shrivel up a little
Yeah.
bit.
Sad.
Then you just pluck them off, and then more will come.
Isn't that the same thing with herbs too? Like when they start to flower, you pull the flower off. So
Cilantro.
Cilantro.
I learned that with cilantro last year. Yeah.
Yeah. And cilantro.
And like it looks so pretty for a second, and my mom's just like, deadhead those.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. And then, and then it will stay in. But cilantro always turns into coriander. It's a really hard one because if it gets a lot of heat, it's
going to flower.
knows
or whatever.
everything.
Yeah.
Science.
Goes to coriander.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So-
Okay.
Well, can we show? I want to show a few of these pots. These are beautiful combinations put together by people at your nursery. Can you kind of tell them the combination of things in this pot?
the flowering, the ornamental cabbage, and then it's creeping Jenny is what is going down, and that creeping Jenny will produce this bright yellow flower.
Pretty. So that's our spiller in the pot,
That's
right?
the spiller.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be your spiller.
Uh-huh.
And then, and this is a spring pot.
Okay.
So you also want to plant for the right season as well. And then that's a ranunculus, the pink,
Oh, pretty.
and that's a spring flower.
How
Okay.
often? So you're saying seasonally. So are you doing pots like in the spring, then you repot and plant them for the summer? And what plants like continue to stay? You have something on the
So I generally plant one pot and then more fall,
okay.
because spring, generally we can't. If you,
Utah.
we live in Utah. Hello, it's really nice right now, but it's going to be winter again. So the rule of thumb is don't plant your pots before Mother's Day.
Yep.
And if you do, if you feel like, oh, I really got to do this, then make sure that if it is going to freeze, that you want to cover it or bring it into your garage
Okay.
or somewhere.
Wow.
Otherwise, it will. Your summer flowers will not last, I should say.
Got it.
So I usually do summer flowers, and then I started doing fall. I love, because our
So
fall
pretty.
can just keep going, and that's where the
so beautiful.
ornamental cabbage. I'm like, are you kidding me? It is a really fun thing, but there's lots of other ones to use
So pretty.
as well. So, but like use different sizes of flowers, and you'll figure out like what combination is pleasing to your eye and what you like.
Yeah, and don't just think up, but think up and over, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I love that.
Up and like a medium and a low. You know, you're gonna do. You want.
Do you kind of arrange these on a table at the nursery before you put them in the pot? Like, how do you get the look before committing to it? Like,
Yes.
which ones,
That's a great idea.
right?
Yeah, yeah. You can just kind of set them all together and see.
I mean, you probably know by now, like, what looks great together, but I feel like as a novice, I would want to be like,
Yeah.
Becky, are you working today? And let's figure this out.
Well, and then you want to see, oh, is
Yeah.
that going to, and you also want to know, do I have too many pots that I'm going to shove in there? Shoving is probably not a really great thing to do with your plants.
They can be kissing.
They can be kissing,
Okay.
but not like squishing.
Hugged.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So they're not
Hugging
squishing.
tight.
Yep.
I like that rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like what you're giving like everyone permission. I don't know. I feel like I've just been given permission to kind of try and assemble it myself and see what like feels right to me. And then I ask you, Becky, like, will they die together? And you'll say yes or no.
Well, that's why you go back to the little sticks that Jess was
The
talking about.
directions.
Like, look at the directions. Are all these going to? Are they all
Be
for
friends.
this? Are they going to be in the sunny spot, or did I throw something that I wasn't supposed to? But if they will like each other, if it's the sun,
Okay.
it's what exposure they're getting,
Okay.
and but they're. Except if you have like a drought tolerant plant, you probably don't want to put something that wants to be watered, like a cactus or something like that, in there that you're going to water more often, because your cactus will die very quickly with lots of water.
Okay.
Does
So,
that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah. So they need like watering habits, like sun habits, and then you're going to be,
be good.
set.
We can live happily together all in one home.
Yes.
That is our front pot.
Yes.
You guys have to
Yes.
be careful with, because isn't lavender like a pretty desert loving? Like, do they? I guess that'll depend on your pot. But
I think it depends.
It's a full sun thing, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And, yeah. And I think it's too, you want to maybe get the herb lavender rather than the lavender that is going to be out in your yard.
Bush.
Mhm, the bush.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
That was a pro tip.
I
I
know.
wouldn't have known that there was a difference.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know.
Okay. So, sorry, rewinding. So, we've got our favorite filler is angel wings. You also love for the thriller geraniums.
I love geraniums because they just are a showstopper. I mean, they just, I'm not a red fan,
Yeah.
but I love like their corals. You can just get some really pretty colors and they're going to produce all summer long for you.
Yeah.
And especially with them, you want to you want to deadhead them.
Okay.
You know, so if you see one kind of wilting, then and that one is more on the stem. You just take the whole stem off.
Oh.
You don't have to do the little teeny
Flower.
flowers. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
On that. And then
Totally.
also, and some of them that are bigger, then you just cut the flower down and then it will
Grow
grow
again.
back up.
That's so
Yeah.
fun. I can't wait. I'm going to fertilize.
I
I'm going
know.
to deadhead.
Get
Yes.
the right kind of snips at
Yes.
your local nursery.
Yeah.
It sounds like so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And then
I love
last
that.
thing was the favorite spiller. What's your favorite spiller?
I do like the
Creeping
the
Jenny.
I like the potato vine.
Oh,
It's
so
just
pretty.
It's I
So
love
pretty.
that green. It's just so different and it's
Yeah.
fun and it really just
They
shows.
thrive.
Yeah,
Those
they
things
just
can
go
grow.
and they go all over and yeah. And so with that especially, I cut mine back sometimes because it can really spill.
Take over a little bit.
Mhm,
Okay.
Yeah. But the creeping Jenny is really pretty. And then also
spiller.
there's some spillers that are flowers. They have little
Okay.
flowers on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are these tall fountain grass looking things? I've noticed you had them in a pot.
In the spring.
The
Yeah.
spiky look.
They're just
So
little
pretty.
little grasses. They just give you another little texture to it. I'm not a big fan of the ones that you see in all of the pots that are really tall and
Yeah.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little too
Just more of this like
contrived.
lazy whimsical
This one. Just is
one.
more whimsical. I like
Love
that.
that. That's so pretty. And that's with the geranium, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So pretty. And what else is in
And
this
and
pot?
then some of those are even little. I'm not a big petunia fan, but I love the little petunias. Are fantastic.
Oh, cute. My
Yes, and
grandma loved petunias and she called us all Petunia.
Oh,
If we were the girl granddaughters, our name was Petunia.
that is so
Isn't
cute.
that
But
funny?
those can be a really great spiller too.
Okay.
And then your shade plants, your begonias can really pop and show off, and so can your impatiens.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And especially with those, even though they're shade, the watering too. You don't want to water too much, then they
Okay.
don't produce as
Start
the
to wilt.
flowers.
Okay.
Let's talk about this pot. It's got some cute little spiky guys. What are those?
Oh,
Little
that's just
fountains.
it's just kind of a
Fountain grass?
grass. Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Too.
I'm also from the 90s and 80s, so I loved big hair, and this is giving me bangs.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
loving it.
See, and I love little things like that just show it off just a little differently.
It catches the light really pretty, kind of feathery.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's
it would,
beautiful.
Like, blow the wind a little bit. Too,
Yeah.
which would be really pretty.
So this combination is a cabbage. What else do we have going on in here, Becky?
There is mums.
Oh,
Mums are in there.
love. So this is maybe more fall.
I think yes, this is, and I think these corabelles. So that would be that's a perennial. I think there's a little corabelle that's in there, and then that's echinacea. That's a perennial as well,
Pretty.
and that looks like yarrow on the right. So those are all kind of some perennials that you can put in there, and then you can put them in your yard if you want.
But here's a question on your pots. Like when fall comes, it's about to frost. Do you take all of them out, even if they're a perennial, and put them in your bed, or do you leave them and send a prayer up that they might come back and look pretty?
Good question. With our winters, the perennials kind of will struggle if you keep them in the pot. So if you wanted to put them back in the pot, you could just nestle them in your garden. Dig a hole, put them in the earth, your garden, and let them stay there for the winter. And then you could bring them back, once you can bring them back and put them in your pot. But I like to switch things up though.
Yeah.
But also taking care of your pot at the end of the summer, the fall, is probably really important, especially if you're going to spend several $100s for a pot. Is you'll want to, if you want to keep it on your front porch, you'll want to elevate it and put some wood underneath so that you're not concrete on concrete, because there's that thaw and frost that's going to happen, and it will crack. It will eventually crack in a few years. So if you just lifted that up and put it on some wood, that would be really helpful.
I like those little risers.
I've
too.
seen a cork saucer too. Those cork saucers.
You probably want a little bit thicker than a quart saucer. I would say a couple of inches that you would want
Good to know.
But I just take mine out and I put it in the garage and elevate it and put it in the garage. Just
really
because
expensive, throw them in the garage.
I would, if you can, because but they're
heavy.
They're big. But there are some that are going to be permanent in your garden. And
if you have 4 strong sons like Becky, they should come and put your pots in the garage.
But some of the really good concrete, that's not going to crack as like most of the ones that you see here are kind of terracotta. And so that just is we're in Utah and it's not California, and we get that hard frost.
That's such good advice to take care of.
And then
our
also
pots.
you're taking your soil out.
And are we throwing that away?
Well, you just don't want your soil to get wet, because that's going to increase the freeze thaw also.
Okay.
So
if I left mine in all winter on my porch, I need to just dump it and get new soil this year.
No, well, you can use the same soil. Just put some enhancer into it, like some good organic material, and you could use it again.
Some Osmocote.
Yeah. But you just don't want it to be getting wet all winter long.
Yeah, fascinating. We definitely did because of all the snow. So that's what I'm wondering if I need to start over.
Is it covered or not covered?
Yeah, it's covered, but it's still a porch. So
okay.
Or windy highland too. So
maybe what you could do too, though, is you could just kind of help a little bit. If you did elevate it, just maybe put some type of a plastic around inside, like take out some of the soil and just so that would inhibit it from getting wet.
Yeah.
But not look cheesy.
I'll do a better
either.
job at the end of the fall.
No better, do better.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Becky, this has been so helpful. Thank you so much for coming on here and teaching us and our guests what to do, because it's almost Mother's Day around here. And I am so excited to try this for myself. Yeah, so fun.
You can do it.
Big thanks to our guest, Master Gardener Becky Nyman. And thank you for listening. If you guys found this conversation helpful, we would love to have you leave a review and give us a 5-star rating. That feedback means so much to us. There are also so many fun new products launching, including our beautiful spring stems. So we hope you enjoy that treat from us to you. We'll catch you guys next time. Hey, thanks for listening. If you like our show, please leave a 5-star rating.